This is extremely important video for you to watch. It might look a little bit boring, but I would highly encourage you to watch it. अभी आपके पास टाइम नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं, बाद में आके देख लेना, but definitely देख जरूर लेना. This type of information no one is giving out. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So markets right now are at roughly 22,500 Nifty, and there is a very important psychological level of 25,000. I definitely feel that this year this level is going to be broken. 25,000 hit कर जाएगा. It's only a 10% away roughly, and वो हो जाएगा because there are three reasons for it. Number one, there is going to be an interest rate cut. There is India election. Estimates are that Modi ji is going to win, so that will make the market little bit more bullish. Third key thing is that there is US election, and again US is a very important market for all across the world. Indian currency is also linked somewhat to the US currency. Why? Because US dollar is the reserve currency of the world, and majority of trade that happens in the world happens in US dollar. जैसे AED है जो दिरहम UAE की जो currency है, that is directly pegged to the US dollar. INR one could argue is indirectly pegged. So whatever is going to happen in the US market, it is going to have significant effect on India. तो ये तो हो गई short term की बात कि यार अगले 6-12 महीने में this is going to happen. Now what happens after that? After that, my assessment is that things will move as per fundamentals. Now, what is the meaning of fundamental? It means that if the world GDP is going up, if India's GDP truly is going up, if US's GDP truly is going up, then you are going to make money by investing in the stock market. Otherwise, there is a very high chances of correction happening. My assessment is that there is going to be a correction after elections, after especially the US elections. I am preparing my portfolio accordingly. Please listen to this video carefully. I am going to do a deep dive into India's GDP. अब आप बोलोगे क्या economist वाला आपने topic बना दिया this that. Guys, I am going to explain it in very simple, easy to understand language. Even if you are a class 10th, 12th student, you will get what I am trying to say. I will show you realistic picture. So please listen to this entire commentary very, very carefully. It is going to define your portfolio in the next 2-3 years. Many of you have asked me, यार market is at an all-time high. Correction तो नहीं हो जाएगी, बहुत डर लग रहा है. So see, 2 points you need to understand. Number one, that we are standing somewhere here, 22,500 के आसपास. And the first major support level comes down at roughly 10% loss, right? अगर आपसे इतना loss देखा नहीं जाता, then please go and buy something called as bonds. You can consider buying corporate bonds. They give higher returns compared to fixed deposits. Or you can buy MLDs, market linked debentures. I have made a video on MLDs here. You can go and check it out. Both of these will hedge your stock market portfolio in a way because you are doing asset class diversification. अब उन topics पे नहीं जाते, आप जाके पूरा video देख सकते हो. I am linking some of my favorite MLDs and bonds in the description and comment box. You guys can definitely go and check it out. So with that said, let us start deep diving into the reality of India's GDP. So point number one is that there is a lot of discrepancy in the data. Now you will say कि Akshat, you are trying to weave a political narrative here. No, think about it, and I will really encourage you to think. I encourage all my students to think, all my listeners to think for yourself. Okay, so let me present 2-3 facts. Number one thing is that right now the India GDP data came, and it came out to be on a quarter to quarter basis roughly 8.4%, which is very high rate of growth of GDP. आप बोलोगे यार ये तो बहुत खुश होने वाली बात है. Definitely, it's a great achievement, no doubt about that. But you need to understand the context around it. For example, the ex-RBI governor, not Raghuram Rajan ji, the other one, Mr. C. Rangarajan, he had explained that if India's GDP grows at roughly 8%, we will become a developed economy by the year 2047. तो अभी तो हमारा GDP growth rate is coming out to be 8.4-8.5%, which is like absolutely massive. Now you'll say कि अच्छा ये तो अच्छी बात हो गई. But see, think practically, and I will share 2-3 data points. Number one, our unemployment rate or youth unemployment rate is very, very high. Close to 800 million people, which is roughly 50% of our population, depends on government hands out in terms of food subsidy. Number three, our savings to GDP ratio has hit a 5-decade low. So एक तरफ तो 8.5 GDP हो रही है, एक तरफ यार लोगों के पास खाने को नहीं है, unemployment situation is there, so much magajmari is there. So what exactly is happening? So to understand this, you need to get into the core of what GDP is, how it is calculated, and what exactly are the two sides of economists talking about. So let me help you simplify that data. So basically there are 3 ways in which GDP is calculated. The first is called as the output method, the second is called input method, and third is called as expenditure method. But for practical purposes, the first and the last method, which is the output method and the expenditure method, are the 2 most popular ways of computing GDP. Now ideally, whenever GDP is computed by using either method 1 or method 3, what I have been speaking about, you should ideally get similar kind of data. हाँ यार एक आध % इधर उधर हो सकता है, बट इट्स नॉट एज इफ कि देयर विल बी अ मैसिव डिफरेंस व्हेन यू डू जीडीपी कंप्यूटेशन फ्रॉम मेथड 1 वर्सेस मेथड 3. Now this is an economic consensus. Now let me just quickly help you understand the difference. आपको थोड़ा सा समझ में आ जाएगा, and also this will make you little bit more aware of how GDP is actually calculated. So first, in the factor method, what is done is that core sectors of the economy are identified. For example, here you can see agriculture, mining, manufacturing. These are all what? These are major sectors in our economy. And इसका देखा जाता है कि इसमें कितना total production था last year and this year, and accordingly a growth rate is assigned. For example, if you look at the mining and quarry sector in this, for example, here these are not the real numbers, these are made up examples just to help you understand the logic here. Then I will show you the real numbers also. So here you can see that mining and quarrying में अगर इस तरीके का डेटा निकल के आया है, this is a slighter older data. I'm just trying to make a point here. You will see that यहाँ पे contraction हुआ था for this particular industry, but other industry like finance, it grew really fast. So इसमें आपको समझना ही है, अब हमको PhD तो करनी नहीं है, right? Now here the thing is that see, these are core contributing sectors of the economy, and here we just simply compute that what is the growth rate in each of these sectors that will eventually contribute to the total GDP. So I hope that this method is clear to everyone. Then comes the second method, which is called as the expenditure method. And अभी यहाँ पे हाल फिलहाल इस method पे ध्यान ज़्यादा है कि इसमें basically we see that what is the final expenditure and उसका growth rate कितना है. What is the government expenditure? Private expenditure होता है जो मैं और आप करते हैं. Government expenditure होता है जो हाईवे बन जाते हैं, रोड बन जाती हैं, मूर्तियाँ वगैरह बन जाती हैं. So all that will go into government expenditure, right? And gross fixed capital formation होता है इसकी वजह से, which are like you know which leads to something called as gross value add GVA. अभी इसके बारे में बात करूंगा. So this becomes a very important matrix कि there has to be a very strong relationship between GDP and GVA. Exactly GVA क्या होता है मैं आपको वो भी समझाता हूँ. But let me first show you the current numbers and let me talk about the reality of GDP there. What is it that the counter side is saying? So here what you will see is, and this is the 2023-2024 data. So this is the latest data. What you will see is that see, this is the expenditure method, right? And इसमें आपको पूरा काला चिट्ठा दिया हुआ है. Import कितना किया, export कितना किया, valuables कितना है, gross capital formation कितना है, वगैरह वगैरह. You will see everything. And here you will see percentage change in GDP. So ये सब निकाल के हमारा आता है 7.8%. But there is another important tab that you will see, which is this, right? Minus 3.4 and 2.8. This is the discrepancies tab. Now what is the meaning of discrepancy? इतनी इकोनॉमिक्स में कोई जाता ही नहीं है. So the method 1 that I had told you and method 3, they should ideally give ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर 19-20 का अंतर कि यार जीडीपी एक मेथड से आपने निकाली, द जीडीपी केम आउट टू बी लेट्स से रफली 7%, दूसरे मेथड से निकाली तो मे बी इट केम आउट टू बी लाइक 7.5%. सो इतना डिफरेंस नहीं है इसमें, राइट? सो दैट इज द व्यू पॉइंट देयर. But actually what is happening is that if you calculate the GDP from method 1 versus method 3, there is a lot of discrepancy between that. So there are two professors who had written an article and I will link it in the description box. One is a professor from Princeton and one is another professor from India. He had written an article and he has explained that see, इतना variance नहीं हो सकता. What he has said is, and I will just quote it out for you, that the discrepancy as a share of GDP has been seen a sharp increase from minus 3.4 to 2.8. That is a 6.2% of the GDP. So 6.2% का variation होना is a very very big variation which begs into question कि exactly हो क्या रहा है GDP नंबर पे. Because यार data collection जो होता है, data processing जो होती है, the inputs that go into creating the GDP data, you have to be sure, right? कि अगर आपको data ठीक मिल रहा है कि नहीं, और नहीं मिल रहा है then you at least need to understand कि अच्छा what exactly is wrong about this data. This might look a little bit boring to you, but trust me guys, if you watch this video till the very end, you will get clarity as to how to apply this entire macroeconomic concept to the stock market decisions that you are going to make. This is extremely important video for you to watch. It might look a little bit boring, but I would highly encourage you to watch it. अभी आपके पास टाइम नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं, बाद में आके देख लेना, but definitely देख जरूर लेना. This type of information no one is giving out. So okay, so back to the topic. The second key problem that is being highlighted, and I will just write it here, that the first problem was 6.2% discrepancy, what I just discussed. The second key problem is that the GVA, now what is GVA? I'll explain that. And the GDP are not matching. They are not even close, right? GDP हमें बताया जा रहा है कि यार वो 7-8% के आसपास है. GVA is like 3.5% or something. So there is a huge variance between the two. So अब आपको मैं समझाने की कोशिश करता हूँ ये deeply complicated topic कि what is the meaning of GVA? Why is it a better matrix compared to GDP? Okay? क्योंकि हम तो GDP सुनते रहते हैं, हमें नंबर किसी ने कुछ भी बता दिया, हमने मान लिया वाली चीज़. But you need to understand that why other important economic factors need to be there. there. For example, hardly anyone talks about GDP per capita. आप उसमें जाके rank check करो and let me know in the comment box that what is India's ranking if you look at GDP per capita. GDP के बारे में तो हमें ranking पता होगी बहुत आराम से. But do you understand what India's ranking is if we move to the matrix GDP per capita? Similarly, आपको इसका भी अंतर पता होना चाहिए. So मैं अब आपको GVA के बारे में बता देता हूँ. So GVA simply means, and this is the simplest explanation that you will find, that it is the total value of output produced without including the intermediary cost that went into producing them. और इन सिंपलर वर्ड्स डबल काउंटिंग अवॉइड हो जाती है तो उसमें GVA नंबर निकल आता है. दैट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन GDP एंड GVA, so to say. I am oversimplifying it here, but I hope that you got the concept. Now, even economists world around, they say that GVA is a better matrix compared to GDP if you are trying to assess the strength, और एटलीस्ट क्योंकि GVA कैलकुलेट करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है तो चलो ठीक है आपने GDP कर लिया, बट those numbers GVA and GDP should not be poles apart. Now, in case you're not from an economics finance background, it's completely okay. Let me give you another explanation of GVA, which is a mathematical explanation. This is something that all of us will be able to understand if we know basic algebra. So यहाँ पे GVA का एक mathematical computation ये निकल के आता है कि GVA is equal to GDP plus subsidies and minus taxes. So basically अगर economy में taxes बढ़ रहे हैं, right? So taxes are going up, then your GVA is going to come down. I hope that this is understood. It's very easy to understand. Now, in India, are taxes going up? The short answer is yes, that the taxes are going up. And on the flip side, if the subsidies are reduced, then again the GVA will come down. So in India's economy, two things are happening. So one is that the taxes are actually going up, fundamentally speaking, and second, the subsidies are also going down. Now, I personally like one of these things, and आप लोग कई बार बोलते हो कि यार I speak against the BJP government or this that. No, that is not the point. Whenever BJP government is doing something really nice from an economic point of view, मैं सिर्फ उस पर commentary देता हूँ. I'm not a political analyst. So what I am going to say is that you know what, bringing subsidy down, Modi ji is doing wonderful job in terms of bringing subsidies down. Okay, but as far as taxation is concerned, भाई taxation वो बढ़ते चले जा रहे हैं, and this kind of indicates that if you look at the entire breakup of GVA, what two things are happening? One is tax is going down. ये हमारे लिए तो खराब चीज़ है, right? And the second key thing is that subsidies is going down, which means कि government का focus है कि यार फालतू के खर्चे ना करें, right? So these are 2 points. One is a good point according to me. One is a bad point. Now, depending on your political ideologies, social ideologies, etc., you might feel otherwise. So now comes the next important point in terms of our GDP makeup. That अगर आप break apart करो बहुत ही simple argument. So GDP is made up of private expenditure, अगर आप expenditure method से जा रहे हो, और public expenditure. Now, what is happening in India's GDP is for the last few years that the public expenses are rising or public expenditure is increasing very fast. तो उससे होता क्या है कि this GDP number also goes up, but the private consumption or private expenditure, this is not going up, this is staying flat. Stock market related point क्या निकल के आता है? Well, it is very simple that if you are looking at consumer durables, उनकी पिटाई क्यों चल रही है? क्योंकि अब सरकार थोड़ी जाके यार AC फ्रिज टीवी इतने खरीद लेगी. What they are going to do is कि यार उन्होंने मूर्ति बना दी, उन्होंने ब्रिज बना दिया, उन्होंने XYZ गार्डन बना दिया, and all that stuff. So that is shown as a part of GDP. Okay, and इससे GVA आपका बढ़ नहीं रहा है. So that is a problem कि भाई productive expenditure तो नहीं हो रहा. So that is the precise problem, that the public expenditure has been high and it has not really been productive per se, right? So this is up for debate. Different economists give different viewpoints on it. You have to further research on it and you have to reach your own conclusion. Now, this entire thing is financed how? Well, it is financed in two ways. एक तो सरकार लोन ले लेती है, which is called as deficit, right? कि आप भी जैसे जाके लोन ले लो तो भाई आपके पास पैसा नहीं है, आपकी तनख्वाह 100 रुपये है, and you are spending 110 rupees. Now, what is a deficit? 10 rupees, right? So that is the deficit. So something happens with the government also. Second key thing is that in order to offset this deficit, वो tax बढ़ाते चले जा रहे हैं. Now, this is not the worrying part. The worrying part is that मैंने आपको भी explanation दिखाई that GDP is a combination of public expense plus private expenditure. Government in its recent budget has announced and said that our expenses or our deficit is roughly 6.5%. That is what our fiscal deficit is, and in the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to bring it down. We are going to cut it somewhere around 5.5%. Now, what does that mean? So let me write this equation again. Private consumption का अभी पता नहीं कि भाई वो बढ़ेगा कि नहीं. जो public consumption है, which is done by the government, what they are saying is कि we are going to cut it. Now, अब वो काटते हैं नहीं काटते हैं वो पता नहीं. But after 2024 elections, do you think that the incentive for the government to keep on spending like crazy will be there? The short answer is absolutely not, right? And this is where the problem begins. So then you will have the next question for me is कि यार ऐसा थोड़ी होता है कि GDP जो है अगर मान भी लो कि GDP falls, right? And why will the stock market fall? Well, because there is a very, very strong correlation between the GDP of a country and its stock market. Now, this does not work for every single country out there. For example, Japan ke case mein that might not be the case. But in India's situation, that definitely applies. Every country decides which asset class it wants to keep alive. That is an entire different topic of conversation. But to cut the long story short, there is a very, very strong correlation between GDP of India and its stock market. This correlation ranges somewhere between 0.7 to 0.8. 70-80% के आसपास होता है कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ द स्टॉक मार्केट गोज अप बाय 100 पॉइंट्स देन जीडीपी हैज टू गो अप बाय 70-80 पॉइंट्स. सो दैट इज डेफिनेटली देयर. एंड आप लॉजिकली सोच के देखो दैट व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ निफ्टी 50 इन इंडिया. नाउ निफ्टी 50 का मतलब होता है कलेक्शन ऑफ टॉप 50 कंपनीज इन इंडिया. एंड व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ जीडीपी. जीडीपी की एक और डेफिनेशन होती है, इट इज द सम टोटल ऑफ all the goods and services produced within the economy. Now, who is producing these goods and services? Well, companies like Nifty 50. वो 50 कंपनियों का representation है. Now, of course, there are more companies in India, but that acts as a very strong proxy. So, to cut the long story short, if the GDP of India is going up like this, then the stock market will also roughly follow this, right? उसमें ऊपर नीचे बीच बीच में कभी हो सकता है, but roughly the long-term trend will remain the same. So coming back to the entire conversation, the public expenditure is coming down, the private expenditure is not coming up. There is a massive difference between the GVA and GDP. Election trigger will be over. So if you collect all these facts, what are the stock market decisions you can reach? Well, the news is not very happy, and this is where I will start summarizing the video. And these are some of the key things that I will be executing in my portfolio starting right away. And if you guys need more information, I share it via the YouTube member community. If you're a serious investor, definitely do consider joining that member community. You will learn a lot. Try staying on it for 3 months. You yourself will see a major difference in the way you think about the markets. So number one thing that will happen is that this wealth difference, this chart that I'm showing in front of you, this will keep on going up. आप देख सकते हो कि 1970 के टाइम पे the top 1% only had 12% of India's wealth. Now this is close to 32%. तभी तो बोलते रहते हैं यार इंडिया शाइनिंग और दिस दैट. कोई भी मतलब irrespective of the political party, you will always have rich being extremely bullish about everything because they are top 1% guys. They are going to make more and more wealth by being in this system and propagating this system further. Okay, so this is one. Now the thing is that the consumption, why is it not picking up? Because आप ऐसे मान के चलो कि for example if there is like a top 1% rich person in India, now he or she might own 5 to 10 houses. ओके, अब वो सारे की सारी में तो हो सकता है भाड़े पे भी ना चढ़ाए, राइट, एंड बेचे भी ना, वो रख के खड़ा रहे कि अब यार मेरे पास इतना पैसा है, आई हैव लाइक सो मच मनी, व्हाट विल आई डू विद इट, आई जस्ट कीप ऑन बाइंग ऑल दीज हाई लग्जरी आइटम्स. सो देयरफॉर इन 2022 यू सॉ मर्सिडीज सेलिंग आउट लाइक हॉट केक्स, यू सॉ एक्सपेंसिव रियल एस्टेट सेलिंग आउट लाइक हॉट केक्स. सो जितनी भी एक्सपेंसिव लग्जरी ओरिएंटेड चीज़ें हैं, they are going to be in demand in the future. This will become a market of monopolies कि भाई handful of monopolies और oligopolies will be there कि 2-3 player बड़े बड़े बन गए, I'll not name them. हर इंडस्ट्री में वो होंगे, right, and they are going to make money from all this and they are going to sell to a handful of people. There is a reason why that almost every service slash good is being designed for the top 5% rich. कंपनियां खत्म होती चली जा रही हैं. देयर आर मोर एंड मोर मोनोपोली दैट इज हैपनिंग. स्मॉल एंड मीडियम बिजनेसेस आर गेटिंग क्रश्ड. आप मेरे से लिखवा के ले लो, इन द नेक्स्ट 10 to 15 ईयर्स जब ग्रोसरी शॉप्स देखते हो ना, एटलीस्ट 60-70% ऑफ देम विल गो अवे. वाई? बिकॉज वो ब्लिंकिट आ गया है, स्विगी आ गया एंड व्हाट नॉट, इंस्टामार्ट आ गया एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ. दे आर गोइंग टू ईट अवे द मार्केट शेयर ऑफ हुम, ऑफ दीज स्मॉल शॉपकीपर, सो टू से. सो इंडिया में सिर्फ ट्यूशन सेंटर और खाने पीने की चीजें मोस्टली चलेंगी फ्रॉम द मिडिल क्लास, राइट. सो आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू द ऑनेस्ट फैक्ट देयर. सो दिस इज वन दैट इफ यू आर लुकिंग टू मेक मनी इन द स्टॉक मार्केट, स्टार्ट investing in companies that cater to luxuries. Number 2, please do not invest in public sector companies because the expenditure of these companies is going to come down. अभी तक तो सरकार के थ्रू हो रहा था ना सारा इन्वेस्टमेंट. Now if they have to decrease their deficit, fiscal deficit, then they will have to cut spending here. So उससे क्या होगा कि whatever rally that you are seeing, it will mellow down or at least it will go sideways. अब now my hypothesis here can be wrong in the sense that कि GDP data बहुत ही खराब निकल के आता है. Then the government continues to pump in more money in terms of government expenses. और बोलेंगे यार 2 साल बाद देखते हैं if we have to cut down our fiscal deficit or not. So anyways, if you're sitting on a big chunk of your portfolio in public sector companies, my advice would be to lower it, so to say. Third key point is that consumption, there will be a revival because of course as the interest rate gets cut, more and more people or consumption power will increase, right? That has got nothing to do with fundamental changes in the economy. It has simply to do with interest rate. आप ऐसे मान के चलो कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी आपको FD रेट मिलता है 7-7.5% मे बी. नाउ इंस्टेड ऑफ गेटिंग 7-7.5%, बैंक वाले कहते हैं कि यार 5% हो गया. सो आर यू गोइंग टू रियली put money in FD? No, you will say कि यार क्या मतलब है इन savings का, I'll just go and spend it. So that will lead to more private expenditure or private consumption, so to say. Number 4, things or institutions that give credit. For example, banks, they are going to be in power, they are going to own the next decade. अभी प्राइवेट बैंक्स को लेके बहुत सेंटिमेंटल इशूज़ चल रहे हैं वगैरह वगैरह. आप यार फंडामेंटली सोचो दैट इन इंडिया देयर इज़ मैसिव नीड ऑफ क्रेडिट. Banks are going to make crazy money from this point. There is already a system that has been built कि payments bank कौन run करेगा, major banks कौन run कर रहा है and all that stuff. It's not a very easy industry to get into. So whichever players are there now, so that group is formed, that team is formed. Now they are going to churn into profit makers, right? So अगर किसी बैंक के पास, if it has even an iota of comparative advantage, it is going to do really well. I will not name which company I am speaking about. You guys know which company I am speaking about. You guys can comment. Final point is that there will be massive monopolization across different industries, right from oil and gas, right from retail, right from tech. Why? Because in India, if फॉरेन प्लेयर्स, वाई डू यू थिंक फॉरेन प्लेयर्स आर वार्मिंग अप टू इंडिया? आपको लगेगा कि यार यू नो और इंडिया की GDP बढ़ा देंगे. भाई दिमाग लगाओ. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ गूगल इज सेलिंग यू स्टफ, you are paying Google some money, or you are paying Meta some money, or you are paying Adobe some money. Where do you think this wealth is going? Well, it is going to America or wherever that parent company is based. So comes the natural question कि FII, DII इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट कर दे तो इंडिया की ग्रोथ हो जाएगी. Yes, there will be. If they are bringing 10 units of value, 3 units will help India, but 7 units will help them, right? They are going to repatriate that wealth, so to say. जितने भी फेसबुक, मेटा, इन सब ने जियो में क्यों इन्वेस्ट किया है? बिकॉज जियो गिव्स देम अ कॉन्ड्यूट टू एक्सप्लोर द इंडियन मार्केट. इंडियन मार्केट इज अ वेरी टफ रेगुलेशन मार्केट, so to say. It is impossible for these companies to find entry into India without benefiting Indian companies. अब आप दिमाग लगा लो कि क्या करना है. What is it that you want to do? I have explained you entire fundamentals. I am going to write a very clear commentary tomorrow on the member community explaining this entire point and some 5-6 key steps that I will be taking in terms of protecting my portfolio. I had been one of the most bullish people over the last 2 years. Now I think that time is coming to an end. I am still bullish over the next 6 to 8 months. Uske baad I am turning out to be a little bit bearish. So I will explain you more about that. I hope that you enjoyed this commentary. Do share it with your friends and I'll see you the next time.